In the last video, we saw some HTML tags. Let's see some more commonly used HTML tags. So here we'll be looking at image tag, img tag, which is used for image, button, and input. We'll be taking that in a separate video, which is related to forms. But other than that, table and lists, these and all we'll be taking in this video. So let's start with a simple anchor tag, which is used to create a hyperlink of any resource on the internet. So when we are having, let's say, a tag, then in a tag you have to here give path of any resource. That can be your local website resource, or it can be any URL on the internet. So let's say I firstly create a local page. So some page2.html, right? Now if I create a new page and let's write page 2. So this is just another HTML page having just a paragraph with page 2. Now this I can link from here. So I can give a absolute path or relative path. So let's give a relative path of page 2. Now this can be accessed when I click on this, but the text which I have to click, that I have to write here. So let's write page 2. If I refresh, then I get this, right? When I click here, then I will go to that URL. Right now it is home page. When I click here, then you can see that it is page 2. The path is page 2. And you can see that it is not taking me to page2.html. So this slight optimization is done by browser itself. I can write page2.html also, and that will also work fine. Now I can also give here a full-fledged URL of some other website, right? So let's say I take google.com example, then I take this URL and I can put it here. So it can be a full HTTP URL also. And let's take Google. Okay. However, now you will see, so Google has come. If I click this, then whatever this page is there, this Google link will open in that page only. Okay, if I go back, then I go to my website. However, as we can see that the requirement can be that it might not open in the same page. I want it to open in a separate tab or something. For that, apart from href, which we give here, href will be the resource URL. Apart from that, we can give another attribute called target. And if this target is equal to underscore blank, so this just you have to remember, if it is underscore blank, then it will open in a new tab. So if I write here target is equal to underscore blank, then if I click now, then you can see that it is opening in a separate tab, not the current one. Okay, you can use underscore self also, but that is same as but that is a default thing, that if I use simply underscore self, then it is same as the default behavior. So we don't need to do this. Underscore blank only for opening in a new tab. However, there are some other if you go to the, let's say, a tag Mozilla, then you will find that there are some other attributes also for that thing. So href is obviously, we told you, it can be a URL, HTTP URL, or it can be some other URLs also, like email URL or something that we have not discussed, but you can put those here. Apart from that, we have seen that target. So I told you that self is the default one. So you can see this is default one. Apart from that, underscore blank in a new tab, and this underscore parent and top you don't need to use for now. These are used, let's say you are using some iframe or something that we have not discussed right now. So in that case, where you want to open, it is for that. But right now, simply opening in current tab, then nothing, or underscore self or underscore blank will open in new tab. So that should be fine. Let's come back to another tag, which is img tag, which is used for displaying images on the web page. So I can have an img tag, and then src tag, src attribute of that tag is there, for which we have to provide the path of the image. Now again, this image path can be local absolute or a relative, or it can be again a full-fledged URL of any web page. Okay, and then is an alt attribute. I'll just come to it. So let's take a simple img tag, and in that src tag is, let's say, some my image, let's say some HTML5 image, right? Then if I refresh, then I get that image. Okay. Secondly, what is this alt? So let's say I write some wrong path. So let's say HTML5 XY. This is not a valid image path. Then what will happen, that obviously the image will not load, but see, it is not giving any error or something, obviously. So what we can do, that if this image is not available, then if whatever we write here, this will be visible. So HTML5 image, if I write this and if I refresh now, then I can see that okay, HTML5 image is not loaded. That is clearly visible now. However, if it is a valid path, then it will not be visible directly, the image will be visible. Second thing I wanted to point that this img tag is self-closing. We can clearly see. So you can use some simple like img or self-closing like this also you can use. Both are fine. But more importantly, img tag is not a block tag. It is a like div or something. This is not a block tag. This is inline tag, which means that let's say I write some this image and then again span is, let's say, awesome. If I write something like this, then you see that this image is awesome, which means that in the same line this thing is coming. Okay, this proves that this is not a block tag. This is a inline tag which creates an inline element, and it comes in the flow of the content. So flow of the content is like this image, and then in the same flow this image will come, and then this text will come. So that is fine. Apart from that, we can see that okay, we exactly don't know exactly what is the boundary of this image. So for that you can customize using your own style. So let's say you could have given some class, or directly on img tag you can say that let's say border is 1 pixel and blue, and then you can see that this is the image we are talking about. We discussed that it is self-closing. Now one thing to note, that generally inline elements we cannot set height or width, but in case of image we can set width and height. So in that sense you can see that it's even if it is inline, but it behaves like inline block. So inline block was what we discussed in one of the previous videos, that inline block is something which is inline. It flows, it renders in the flow of the content. However, we can set its height and width. So for example, apart from using CSS, which we'll come to, and that is the preferred way, we could also simply write here that what is the width. So let's say width is equal to 300, or let's say 400. Then we can see that this 400 is its width is there. Now you can see that automatically its height has also increased based on the dimensions of the image. So if let's say I would have used, let's say, height is equal to 200, then again height will be 200, and what will be width? Width will be automatically as per the dimensions of the image. Important point to note is that if you provide height and width both, so let's say width is 400 and height is 200, then obviously it can slightly stretch. Why? Because we are forcing it to be of 400 by 200 dimensions. Whatever is the original dimension, we are not using that. So either you know the exact dimension. So in this case I know that it is 300 and 300, I know that, so I can set both of these and it will work fine. However, if you don't know, or what are the dimensions, or you don't want to bother about these things, then what you can do is that either you provide height or width, one of them. Don't provide both of them. If you provide one of them, then automatically it will take the other thing as per the dimension of that image. Okay, fine. So we can put height width, that is fine. However, that is and these things, yeah, as you can see that I have not given any unit, 400 or 300, whatever we gave, it is just a number. That actually that is that should be always an integer, and that is assumed to be in pixels. So 300 I'm writing, it means 300 pixels. Another thing, you should not generally try to set the height and width like this. The better way is you should use CSS. So rather than here, I can use the same thing, that inside that IMG tag. If you have multiple IMG tags, then you can target that by class. Here there is only one IMG tag, that's why I'm writing here. But you can write something like okay, its width is 300 pixel. So here you have to give units because this is normal CSS. More importantly, now since this is CSS, I could easily have given let's say rem or em. These units also I can use because this is CSS and it will work fine. Okay. Next, sometimes it can happen that I want to describe the image. So I want to give some description of the image. So for that, there is a tag called fig caption. So I can use a overall tag figure. Inside that I can give image and then its caption, which means that description of that. So let's say I have a image of width 10 em, that is fine, but I want to put a caption. So if I give figure tag and inside figure I put this image, that is fine, and then I can use fig caption. And in this fig caption, this is HTML5 logo, let's say. And now if I refresh, then you see that this thing is rendered like this. Now see one important thing, that now it is no more an inline element. Now it is like block. You can see that this image is gone to the separate line and is gone to separate line, and this whole thing is behaving like a block element, which means that this figure tag is is not an inline tag, it is a block tag, and that's why it is coming out to be in a separate line. Okay, that is fine. And as I mentioned, you should rather use CSS and you can style it like using either targeting the tag or using class names. Next, let's take this block quote tag, which is used for some quotation. So you remember that we earlier had Q Q tag, right? So Q tag was something like this, that okay, Q, and I can write like some quotation, anything I can write. So when I am using Q tag, then it is simply just a in quotation, this thing is there, and this is inline. You can test it, right? So let's say hello is there, and then world is there. As you can see, this is inline. However, this thing, as the names also suggest, it is a block quote. It is not a inline quote, it is a block quote. And if you write something like this, let's say block quote, in that you can write anything you can write, and then that thing will come. So like this block quote tags will be there, and in that you can write any random text that will come as a block level quotation. So this quotation mark will not be there, rather it will be a separate browser will give some separate sort of styling. What is that styling? You can see that. So let's write something like this, that let's say someone wise said, and if I see, then you can see that okay, this thing is rendered, and after that when block quote is rendered, then I can see. So you can see that if instead of block quote, if I would have used let's say a normal quotation, something like let's say div, right, then you can see that this thing will be rendered normally. You can see like this. However, instead of this, when I wrote block quote, right, then what happened? Then we are getting some sort of styling which is by default the browser is giving. It is giving some gap here on the top and some gap on the left side also. And this is the default behavior. Again, you can change it if you want. So for example, let's say I don't want this behavior. I want a styling like this, that my block quote should have a left border. So let's say left border left. I'm trying to give wait, I'm not putting it in style tag, I'm putting it outside. So I can use something like this. So let's say border left, I am giving let's say 5 pixel solid and some gray color, let's say Gainsborough. Now this thing will be visible like this, okay? And I can give some let's say padding left to be, let's say 15 pixel, which means that, as you can see, that the default behavior you can change. Again, you see that this much gap browser is giving by default. Let's say you don't want this much gap. This is around like looking like 15-20 pixel. Let's say you want to give only margin top of let's say 5 pixel, okay? Then you can say that something like this. So the thing is that default something some behavior HTML will give, but I can customize. Now you can do the same, you could have done the same customization with div also. Instead div, if you write and do the same thing, then something like this will come. This left side padding will not, margin will not come, but that you can customize, right? In fact here also you can customize. You could have said that, okay, margin left I don't want, margin left is 0, or let's say 5 pixel, then it will be reduced. So in this case, but the point is that why we are doing this block quote thing. We could have done this with div also. The reason is simple, as we discussed earlier, that nowadays in HTML5 we use semantic tags, which means that tag should have a semantic meaning, that what is visible in the HTML is fine, but what it means. So some for accessibility concerns, so we know that when some screen reader or something is watching this tag, then they will see that, okay, this is a block quote, and so how to display it or read it to the user in that sense. Okay, now we have seen that. Let's come back to another very important thing, which is called lists. Lists are of two types: unordered list and ordered list. Firstly, let's see unordered list. Unordered list can be created using two tags. One tag is UL and another tag is LI. UL means unordered list, and inside that these are items of the list. So let's say your to-do list is there, and in to-do list you can create something like this. Let's say my to-do list, okay? And in this I can create a, let's remove this, not needed, let's remove its style also, and I could write something like UL tag, which is like unordered list, and then I can give a list item. So let's say this item 1, and then you can have like many items as much you want. So these items will be visible as a list. Again, you can see that by default it is giving some gap here, right? Now let's say this much gap you don't want. I want less gap. Then you can customize these things, right? So let's say I can customize that, you know what, in my UL tag the margin top should be 0. Okay, then it will collapse, or you can keep it 5 pixel or 10 pixel as per you. But main point is that the list which is being rendered is an unordered list. You can see there is no ordering, in contrast to something called ordered list. For ordered list the tag is OL, ordered list, and when I do this, then you will see that instead that a numbering has come. And again, why gap has become? Because I put the style on UL. If I put style on OL, you can put for both also, and then I will see that thing is rendered as a ordered list. So this is ordered list, and the syntax is simply, instead of UL you have to write OL. Now let's do some styling of this list, which means that what if my requirement is there that, you know what, this should be an unordered list, but by default you see that what is the style of the bullet. By default the style of the bullet is some sort of solid circle. Let's say I don't want this at all. I don't want this. Then you can write something like this, that you know what, the item, the list item inside UL, whatever the list item is there. So inside UL, whatever the list item is there, I want to set its list style to none. So right now, list style to, let's say, none. So right now it is bullet. Now you see that bullet is gone, which means that we can customize that. Not only that, we can customize the style of the bullet also. So list style disk, this is the default one. So if I was not using this line at all, if I was not using this line at all, no styling, then by default what was there, this thing was there, disk. This is the default one. So you can see the same thing. However, you can customize it something like square or circle. So let's say instead of rounded disk, I want square disk. So if I use square, then this bullet will now become square. It has become square. Or I can use circle, which will give a disk sort of circle only, but it will be hollow circle. So you can see that it is a hollow circle. So in this way we can style the bullets. Let's come back to another tag, which is table. This is very important. In fact, in earlier versions of HTML and CSS, when too much styling options, like we will see later, flexbox and those things were not there, then table was used for layouts also. We will see that how we can do those layouts using a table. But in essence, it is used for representing tabular data, which means that some items are there which are in some rows or some columns, like spreadsheet sort of. So let's say 10 rows are there, and let's say 10 rows are there, and then 5 columns are there. So those sort of things we can put it in a tabular structure like this. Let's see. So let's remove the list styles, and here we are going to have a table. Let's say that table, inside that table. Now see, firstly table you have to give, then you have to give t body. There is something called t head also, which will come. But what is the body of the table? The body of the table is this content. And now you see that there is a tag tr and there is a tag td. Tr means table row, td means table cell or column. You can see, you understand like that. So tr, using tr, I can say tr. Inside tr, all the items of that row. So let's say one row contains, let's say 3 items. So I can write td, and then I can write, let's say, item 1, and I can have multiple items. So let's say 3 items are there. When I see, then this will be visible. So there is one row containing 3 items, and this whole thing is a row. So let's say this is first item of first row, first item, second item, and third item of first row, and I have another row, and this row has again 3 items. So 2 1, 2 2, 2 3. So these are the first, second, third items of second row. If I see this, then now there will be two rows containing all the items which we have mentioned. Okay, that is fine. Now let's come back to something called t head, which I was saying. Okay, so now we saw that this is a structure. The t body is this. Let's say that I don't use t body. I'm just showing you that if I don't use t body and I put the whole thing directly under table, I have not used t body, then see what happens. Still there is no difference, right? However, you should not do this. You should use it properly inside t body tag, and in here it is working fine. Later we will see that in JSX, in React, this will not work, and they will tell you that you should have t body always. So then why not always write the best the best way in which it has to be right, recommended way. So we should use t body, and inside that t body the content is there. Now if it is t body, what is t head? There is something called t head. In t head, let's say t head, again we can write a similar thing. We can have a tr, and in that a row of the head is there, and then I can have a items of that. So let's say td, and in that title, let's say this is title 1, title 2, title 3. Okay, and then it will be visible like this. Okay, So this part is head, and this part is body. But you know what? It is not visible. So to the parser, HTML parser, it is visible, but to us in the sense that in HTML page it is not clearly visible. So there is another thing which you can use in this, which is called TH rather than TD. So instead of TD, if you write TH, so let's say I change it to TH, then what happens is that this will have a slightly different, so you can see that this thing is slightly bolder and aligned in the center. So it is good for showing that, okay, you know what, this thing is the title of the or header part of the table, and this is the body part of the table. Okay, fine. We said that T head can be there, and that you can use TD or TH, whatever. Now let's see border of the table. So we can see that this table is rendered. However, there is no border of this. There is no demarcation that what are the various cells in which order. So each cell item can be multiple words, right? So for clarity, we might need to have some sort of a border of the table. So we can do that by giving a style. So table and this cells means TH and TD. These things we can give a style. So let's say table and TD and TH. On these three, we want to style and give a border of, let's say, 1 pixel and solid and black. If I give this thing, then we can see that some sort of border has come. Okay, that is fine. However, we can see that this dual sort of border has come, one for whole table and then for each cells. Okay, there is a property called border collapse, and if we use that, then we can collapse these borders. So I can here write border collapse, and then in that value is collapse. If I do that, then we can see that the borders have collapsed, and now there is a single border. Note that the width is still like sort of 1 pixel only. It is not that border after collapsing, its width is not like 1 and 1 2. It is still 1. So that is fine. However, we can see that this sort of there is no gap. I don't want this much tiny no gap between the content and the border. So for that, I don't need to target table, because now we are dealing only with the cells, right? So only cell tags, which are TD and TH. For that, I can give some style. Let's say I need a padding of 10 pixel on all the 4 sides. So if I give that, then I can see that now it is somewhat clearly visible. Okay, so you can do like that, and we can say that once this sort of whole table is available, then as we said earlier that we can do some sort of a layout, which means that when we are trying to create a layout on the web page, then it can be something like, okay, I have a, let's say, 8 by 8 grid or 12 by 12 grid, and then what I want is that I need to, let's say, have a section which is like this much big, which means that this whole thing is one section, right? So for that and in that sense, actually you can use these things for simple your table structure also. So let's say some of the values don't make sense, something like this, and they are collapsed. So it is as per your need, but the idea is that table provides a mechanism of doing so, which is called row span and col span. Okay, which means that if I want to span through multiple rows, then I can give a row span value and say that how many rows have to be spanned. So let's say, and all these values have to be given on cell level, which means that, let's say, right now I'm here, what I want to do is item 1 and item 2 these two things I have to collapse, item 1 and item 2. This whole thing will be, let's say, only one single cell. These two I have to collapse. And why I will use row span? Because this is a separate row, for this item I am trying to collapse 2 rows, but only for this item, this cell. And that's why on that cell TD, you can write row span is equal to how many rows you want to span. So let's say many rows and columns are there, you can give 3, 4, 5, whatever value. Here in this case we just want to use two rows I want to collapse. But you think that now if this thing is collapsed with this, then this item 2 1 is not necessary. If I refresh now, then you see that some restructuring has gone haywire. So we should basically remove this, and if we remove this, then properly whatever the expected thing was there, it has happened. These two are collapsed. Now let's say I'll give you an example of something similar called call span. Call span means two columns I have to collapse. Okay, let's collapse this item 22 and item 23, which means that I have to go to item 22 cell, and then I have to say that call span is equal to 2, and then I have to remove item 23. Okay, let's do that. Item 22. So I have gone here, and then I have said that call span is equal to 2, and when I do call span 2, then obviously I should remove item 23. Otherwise what will happen? You can see that again some formatting issue has come. So I will remove item 23, and now it is expected behavior. Item 22 and item 23 are collapsed. And again everything else, like if you want this to be in center, all those things, so you can see that by default all the items are coming in the left line, right? So the aligning text and all we will discuss later in CSS alignments and all. But the point is that using CSS, as we know things further, we will be able to do that. Okay, basic idea was that this sort of layout, you can see that even complex layouts you can achieve. That's why I said that in earlier times, the whole web page, all the sections used to be, many people used to do it using table. Right now there are better ways to do it, but using table is also possible. This sort of layout is possible, that I just wanted to show. Okay, that should be fine. We'll see some input and all these fields in the later video. For now, this thing should be enough. Let's see you in the next video.